All right, let's talk about Rocket and let's talk about Jeff. Short answer: Jeff is better than Rocket, and I don't think you're gonna be able to convince me otherwise. So let's sit down and talk about why Jeff is better than Rocket. So I'm mostly speaking on this in terms of a ranked environment, right? Which character would I rather have on my team if I'm solo queuing and I'm just playing with randoms on ranked? And in general, I'm talking about like most of the ranks, somewhere between bronze and like celestial, right? So probably like bronze to GM. If I'm gonna get a support player, which of these two characters would I rather have on my team? The answer is Jeff. Now, the reason I feel I need to make this video and stress this to people is when people have to fill, when you have a DPS player or a tank player who isn't really performing the way that they would like to be performing, right? Maybe they're having an off day, maybe the enemy's team comp just counters the heroes that they normally play, and they're like, no problem, I'll fill, I'll play support, right? I see a lot of people default to Rocket, and I want to express why this is not your best choice. Personally, I think you should probably just default to Cloak and Dagger, but sometimes Cloak and Dagger is already taken, so in that case, I think you should default to Jeff. Luna would also be nice, but Luna is a very aim-dependent hero, so, you know, if your aim is kind of like mine, which is subpar, your performance may not be the best that it could be on Luna, and you would bring more value to your team, more consistent healing to your team, if you just played something like Jeff. So, again, let's get into it. Like, why is Jeff better? Well, I want to address some of like the positives that are associated with Rocket first, and then we'll talk about why Jeff is just straight up better. So, like the biggest thing that most Rocket players are going to tell you that makes Rocket the better pick is Rocket has res, right? Both heroes are already very good at surviving. So Rocket can climb walls and use his jetpack to avoid danger a lot. He is very good at surviving. He heals himself when he uses his heal. Jeff can bubble himself, right? Not Magneto bubble, but he can spit bubbles on himself. He can go underwater. He can climb walls, right? Both of them have good survivability, so we're not comparing survivability. Res Beacon is very good for Rocket, and admittedly, it is a fantastic ability. It can provide your teammates with 25 shield if they pick up the shields, and it just straight up brings someone back to life if they die. You can't complain about an ability like that. It's just very good. It's solid. The only problem with it is that Res Beacon has a radius, and depending on the team that you're playing with, your teammate might not get res because they might be out of the radius of Res Beacon, right? And you can't really put Res Beacon out in the open because Res Beacon can be destroyed, so you have to kind of place it in particular areas so that the enemy team doesn't see it, and it's still within range for your allies to be brought back. So there's some skill involved with where you place Res Beacon on when you're using Rocket. But again, if you have like Venom BP Magic, right, or Spider-Man and Venom, or like Hulk in Venom or something like that, like two dive characters, those characters might not see the benefits of the Res Beacon, right? So it's limited to, and also if Rocket dies, the Res Beacon goes away, right? So like you might get your support back, or you might get another DPS back, or you might get your main tank back. It's still a great ability, right? It's still very strong. But again, a competent enemy team will be aware of the fact that you're playing Rocket, and that they should probably seek out, like they're going to send someone with high mobility to go deal with the beacon, and stop that from being like a major problem. Also, I'm not a big fan of reactionary abilities that basically don't do anything substantial unless your enemy team does something in response, right? So Res Beacon has no value if your team is just stomping the enemy team, right? If you kill the enemy team every team fight, Res Beacon is worthless. This is the same reason why, like, as much as I like playing Adam Warlock, I think his ultimate is still less valuable than many of the other ults in the game, because again, what is better than bringing your team back from the dead, keeping your team from dying in the first place, or killing the enemy team before they can kill your team? You see what I mean? So again, Res Beacon is fine. Res Beacon is a good ability. I can see why you would say, oh, just play Rocket for Res, but I just addressed why that's not like a completely solid plan or recommendation. Like, that's not the end all be all of why you should pick Rocket. The second element of Rocket's kit that's like very strong, that you can definitely make an argument this is better than Jeff, is his ultimate, right? Rocket's ult is just straight up better than Jeff's ult. I'm not gonna actually try to make an argument that the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier or whatever is weaker than It's Jeff. Now, It's Jeff has its utility, right? It is good. It's a good ult when your team plays around it. But again, we're talking about a ranked environment. We're talking about random people who are just filling and playing different roles. You're probably never going to see these people again. You might not even have a microphone, right? Your level of coordination is going to be very limited in ranked. So Jeff's ult is less useful in ranked because you are not going to get things like Magneto Bubble. You're not going to get like your thing to jump on you to give you 30% damage reduction. You're not really going to get a Hulk that bubbles you all that often. You get what I mean? Like, or Strange that fucking shields you while you're running away. Those kinds of things don't really happen in ranked. In fact, most people just complain when they see someone pick Jeff on their team. So they're not going to try to play around your ult on Jeff, which is how you get value on Jeff's ult in its current state. Instead, they'd much rather you play Rocket, which gives them 20% damage. I believe it's 20%. It's some kind of damage boost. Gives you damage boost, healing, and overshield, right? In that certain area. You can't really complain about a Rocket ult, right? It's not as good as a Luna ult. It's not as good as a Cloak and Dagger ult. It's not as good as an Invis ult, but it's good enough to get the job done, and it provides healing. So people aren't going to complain about a Rocket ult. So those are the two elements of his kit that I think actually make him like either better or on par with Jeff. Everything else about the way he is played, I think Jeff just does it better. So essentially, I think Jeff is better in the mid fight, right? When your team is actually fighting moment to moment, playing the fucking game, Jeff is the better pick. And there's a few reasons for that. Again, we talked about his survivability. I think Jeff's survivability is debatably better than Rocket's, but I'm not going to debate with you on that, whether or not you think Rocket's survivability is better or not. The main thing that makes Jeff so much better than Rocket is damage. That's it. When I see a Rocket on my team, I basically have to make a mental note. Okay, we are going to be playing with 5 players and 1 player that is healing. So we are basically going to be down 1 player in damage, and we're going to have to make up for that lack of damage in some way. The way most players play Rocket is they just sit in the back and they just spam heals at their team, which you might think, well, you're a support. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just be healing your team and keeping your team alive. But any good support player or any good support character has a way of weaving damage in while healing, because your damage as a support is not inconsequential. It matters, and you need to be providing that damage for your team in order to help them secure kills. Now, I'm not saying you need to be DPS Luna or DPS Mantis or DPS Cloak and Dagger, right? I'm not saying you should just be playing as Cloak the entire game and just sucking people off and putting the blanket over them, right? Man, out of context, a lot of this stuff sounds really weird. But you're not supposed to play like that, right? It's more like you're throwing daggers as Dagger, you're healing your team, you're putting the orb down, you see someone get out of position and they're low HP, you turn your cursor to them, you put a few daggers into them, the rest of your team cleans them up, right? Stuff like that. You can very seamlessly go from healing someone as Dagger to dealing damage as Dagger. Same thing with Luna. You can very quickly, very seamlessly go from healing them on Luna to dealing damage on Luna. Rocket is not in that same boat. Rocket has an ult fire that deals damage, right? So it's one fire button heals, the other fire button deals damage. That's kind of clunky to work with. On top of that, Rocket's damage dealing fire has limited range, like limited effective range, and its spread is actually pretty long, like it's pretty wide. So Rocket's damage is only really effective at like mid to close range. And admittedly, at close range, Rocket deals a lot of damage. But again, the way most people play Rocket is the minute something enters into their line of sight or like enters into their bubble in their vicinity where it's a threat, they'll just run away, which is smart, right? You want to stay alive on support, but if you played Rocket a little more aggressively, right, just shooting at people a little bit more when they try to dive you and stuff like that, you would see very easily that Rocket can shred through tanks, right? Like if I'm playing as Hulk and I dive a Rocket, I'm actually scared to dive a Rocket, because if he aims at my face and shoots me with his primary fire, like that's gonna take a chunk of my health away, right? He's gonna deal a significant portion of damage to me before I can kill him, and he still has his mobility to like get away because he can climb on walls and stuff like that and heal himself. So you deal good damage as Rocket. People just don't play Rocket in that way as a way to like counter big guys diving you like Thing. Though admittedly, if Thing is running up on you, you should probably just get away, because if he ground slams you, you know, your ability to like dash and get away is going to be limited, and he can really just 2-tap you with his haymaker. So not ideal in that situation. But again, let's go back to Jeff. Jeff, if you want to heal your teammates, you just spit, right? You're spitting your stream at them, and you're going to heal your teammates. You're going to heal multiple teammates at one time, because his spit goes through teammates, right? And you're going to deal damage to enemies while you're healing your teammates, because your healing pierces allies and it pierces enemies. So you can be hitting multiple enemies with Jeff's spit while healing your allies. And that helps put damage on the board to help your teammates clean up enemies. This also helps with dealing with stuff like Namor squids, Loki clones, Loki totems, right? Other deployables that are on the map. It's just the value. I think people really don't understand how valuable the ability to pierce through enemies and allies is with healing and damage. Like Luna Clap, when Luna claps and does her extra damage, extra healing ability, what makes that ability so good is that it pierces enemies, or it pierces allies and damages enemies all at the same time. That ability is so good that you basically want to be using that any chance you get on Luna. Jeff has it for free. He just gets to do it for free. Mind you, his healing and damage are lower, right, than Luna's clap, but who cares when the number is consistent, right? If your entire purpose, if your entire job, you just want to play healer so you can keep your team alive, Jeff is probably the best option outside of Cloak and Dagger and Invisible Woman, right? And Loki, but those characters are a bit harder to play than Jeff is. Another thing, the balls that Rocket spits out, that, again, is out of context, not good. The healing orbs that Rocket uses on his team are projectile. They have a slower movement speed than Jeff's spit, and their pathing is fixed, right? So if you shoot it at your teammate and your teammate walks away from it, you have to wait until Rocket shoots another one before you can actually get the heal off on your teammate. Jeff, none of that. You just look at your team and hold the fire button, and Jeff is healing them. It's a beam. Like you really can't miss with this beam. So if aim is your problem, Jeff solves that, because it's so easy to aim the beam. So you just use Jeff and you heal your teammates. Jeff has a secondary fire that boops people, right? As a Hulk player, again, I play Hulk a lot. If I want to jump away from the enemy team and Jeff hits me with one of his orbs, that will mess up my jump and it can kill me. Jeff can just straight up just kill people out of their movement abilities because he has a boop. That's insane utility. It requires you to actually hit your shot, but it's still insane utility. Jeff's healing bubble, right? You spit the healing bubble at your teammate, they heal over time, and you can still just heal them regularly. It's an insane amount of healing that Jeff can put out. So again, if your entire purpose is I just want to heal my teammates and keep them alive, throughout the entirety of the game, Jeff brings you more value than Rocket does. Because of the damage, because of the flexibility of his healing, and because of the increased number, right, the amount of healing he can do. Even if it's just like, I look at my teammate who's hiding behind a corner because they're low, I spit a bubble at them, and then I can just go back I can go back to healing my tank, because the bubble will heal them over time. If I'm Rocket, I have to choose, who am I going to heal right here? Am I going to heal the guy who's standing in a corner, waiting for me to heal him, or am I going to heal my tank? I can't just put one healing orb isn't enough for the guy in the corner. I got to shoot like 2 or 3 at him, and then I have to go back to shooting my tank. It's way more stressful to play Rocket than it is to play Jeff, if you're inexperienced playing healer. Jeff also just has more mobility. So like, you need to get back to the team fight, you can do it faster on Jeff. You need to speed boost your team into the team fight, you can do that on Jeff. You can't do it on Rocket. So the skill floor for the character is debatably, like in terms of the utility that Jeff brings to your team, is higher than that of Rocket. Debatably, because again, we're talking about like Res Beacon and stuff like that. There's a lot of utility in Res Beacon. But moment to moment, right, those little micro moments of decision making, your Hulk chasing down a Luna Snow, right, and he barely can't reach her. Shoot a bubble at him. Now he's gonna reach her, right? You can't do that on Rocket. That's a decision that you can't make on Rocket. So the only thing about Jeff that is worse than Rocket is his ultimate, and that's getting fixed in the next patch, because they're adding a little pool of water wherever Jeff uses his ult that heals allies and Jeff for 100 ticks per second. So that more or less just solves all the problems that Jeff's kit has. Jeff is now just a good pick. He's just a solid support. And honestly, if someone complains, they're like, no, bro, please no Jeff. Can we not have a Jeff? This in season 4, like, you can just in the back of your mind understand, okay, this person is bad at the game. They don't understand the value that Jeff can bring to a team. Like, no problem, right? Like, I get it. You would want a Luna, you would want a Cloak and Dagger, you would want an Invisible Woman, but all of those heroes are more mechanically demanding and take more skill to use. So someone who is just filling on the role and letting you play DPS or letting you play tank, you know, they might not have the experience to play Luna well. They might not have the experience to play Cloak and Dagger at an acceptable level, which is actually like kind of hard to believe. They might not have the experience to play Invisible Woman at an acceptable level. But Jeff, it's very easy to get value on Jeff. It's very easy to contribute to your team on Jeff. And with the way his ult is going to work now, you know, you could just pop your ult on point, eat the enemy players who are on point, leave a healing pool for your teammates, go spit the enemy team off the map, or you could just hold the enemy team in your mouth while you chill on the point, getting healed for 100 per second. You know, let your allies fight for a little bit, then you spit the enemies in your mouth out. They're low HP. The rest of your team cleans up. Like, that's very useful. Hey, you want to know what else is better about Jeff's ult, his new ult, compared to Rocket's ult? The enemy team can't shoot the pool of water that Jeff leaves behind and destroy it. They can't just pop a Phoenix ult and destroy it. Well, actually, maybe they can, because I wonder if it's going to be considered a deployable. That's something that'll have to be tested. That's something we'll have to actually see when the patch comes out. But you get my point, right? Rocket's ult is good. He can pop it, it heals, it gives shields, it gives damage boost, but the enemy team can destroy it. Jeff, you just leave the pool behind, and your team just gets free healing. It's 100 healing per second. So it's like, that. What more do you want? Right? Like, it's just an invis ult, basically, with the added benefit of Jeff being able to, on occasion, kill like 3 or more people with his ultimate. So moving forward into Season 4, your pick, if you are a DPS or you are a tank, and you don't play support, your 2 picks are Cloak and Dagger and Jeff. Stop playing Rocket. You provide very little value to your team outside of raw healing numbers than you would on Jeff. That's my PSA. Have a great day.